You're not healing your past, you're freeing your future. You keep going back. Back to that moment, back to that memory, back to the wound that won't close, the story that won't end, the version of yourself that still lives in that pain. You've been told this is healing, that you need to process it, understand it, resolve it, that somewhere in the archaeology of your past lies the key to your freedom. And so you dig, you excavate, you turn over every stone, examining every shadow, reliving every moment, trying to make sense of what happened and why it still hurts. But here's what no one tells you. You're not healing your past. You can't heal your past. The past is already done, already written, already sealed in the amber of time. What you're actually doing is something far more profound. You're freeing your future. And the moment you understand this distinction, everything changes. You know the feeling. You're sitting with a memory that's 10 years old, 15 years old, maybe even 20, and it still has its hands around your throat. You can see it so clearly, the room, the words, the look on their face, the way your body felt in that moment, small and powerless and wrong. You've tried everything, therapy, journaling, talking it through with friends who listen with patient, sympathetic faces. You've done the exercises, read the books, practiced the affirmations. You've tried to understand your parents, your circumstances, the context that shaped what happened. You've tried to forgive, to let go, to move on, but it follows you into your relationships, into your career choices, into the way you speak to yourself at 3 in the morning when sleep won't come. It's there in your patterns, your triggers, your inexplicable reactions to things that shouldn't matter this much. And you start to wonder if you're doing it wrong, if you're broken in some fundamental way, if everyone else has figured out how to leave the past behind while you're still trapped in its echo chamber, listening to the same painful recordings on repeat. You see other people moving forward with their lives. They seem lighter somehow, free, and you think, why can't I do that? Why does this still hurt? Why am I still here? The guilt comes next. Guilt for not being over it. Guilt for dwelling. Guilt for letting something that happened so long ago still define your present. You tell yourself you should be stronger, more resilient, more evolved. You've done the work, haven't you? So why does the work feel endless? Here's what's happening that you can't see yet. You've been asking the wrong question. You've been asking, how do I heal this wound from my past? When the real question is, how do I stop letting my past write the story of my future? You see, when you focus on healing the past, you're operating under a fundamental misunderstanding of how psychological time works. You're treating memory like a video file that needs to be edited, a corrupted document that needs to be repaired. But that's not what memory is. That's not how your psyche works. Your past isn't a thing that exists somewhere behind you, waiting to be fixed. Your past exists only in this present moment, in the way you're holding it, interpreting it, giving it meaning right now. And here's the truth that will set you free. You're not trapped by what happened. You're trapped by what you believe what happened means about you and your future. Jung understood something crucial that most therapeutic approaches miss. He knew that the psyche doesn't move in linear time the way we imagine. The unconscious has no concept of past and future. Everything is now. That childhood wound, it's not back there in your history. It's here, alive, active, creating your present moment experience. But it's not creating your present because of what happened. It's creating your present because of what you've made it mean. Let me show you what I mean. When something painful happens to you as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, your psyche does something remarkable and necessary. It creates a story about what that experience means. Not just the facts of what occurred, but the meaning, the interpretation, the conclusion about yourself, about others, about how the world works. I am not worthy of love. The world is dangerous. I must hide my true self to survive. My needs don't matter. I am fundamentally broken. These aren't just thoughts. They're not cognitive distortions that can be corrected with positive thinking. They're what Jung called complexes, autonomous psychological entities that take on a life of their own. They become internal voices, guiding principles, the invisible architecture of your personality. And here's the key: these complexes don't live in your past. They live in your future. Every moment you spend trying to heal your past, what you're actually trying to do is dissolve these complexes, to strip them of their power. But you can't do that by going backwards. You can't think your way out of a complex by understanding where it came from. Understanding is important, yes, but it's not transformation. Transformation happens when you realize that the complex isn't a truth about you. It's a story you told yourself to survive, and stories can be rewritten. This is what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of adaptation, survival, and conditioning. It's not about fixing what's broken. It's about recognizing that you were never broken at all. You were responding perfectly to impossible circumstances. The shame you carry isn't your essence. It's protection. The fear isn't weakness. It's wisdom that hasn't been updated. The pattern isn't a character flaw. It's an outdated strategy that once kept you safe. You see, your psyche is incredibly intelligent. When you experienced pain, especially early pain, it did exactly what it needed to do. It created meaning, formed conclusions, built defenses. It said, okay, this is what the world is like. This is who I need to be to survive here. This is how I must move through life. And it worked. You survived, you made it here. But what worked then doesn't work now. The strategies that protected the child, the teenager, the young adult, are now the very things constraining the person you're becoming. And your psyche knows this. That's why you feel stuck. That's why the old patterns feel increasingly intolerable. Not because you're failing at healing, but because you're ready for something more. So let's talk about what's really happening when you do this work you call healing your past. You're not actually healing the past. You're renegotiating your relationship with time itself. You're learning to see that the story you've been telling about what happened, the meaning you assigned to those events, was just one possible interpretation. Not the truth, not the only truth. One truth, filtered through the lens of a younger self who didn't have the resources, the perspective, the wisdom you have now. When you revisit a memory with your adult consciousness, you're not changing what happened. You're changing what it means. You're updating the narrative. You're saying to that younger version of yourself, I see what you concluded in that moment. I understand why you drew that conclusion, but I'm here now, and I have different information. This is the alchemical process Jung spoke about, the transformation of base metal into gold, not by adding something new, but by revealing what was always there beneath the layers of misunderstanding. You're not healing your past. You're liberating your future from the interpretations your past self made. And this is why the work feels so difficult, because you're not just remembering, you're not just feeling. You're dying. The ego structure that was built around those old interpretations is dissolving. The identity you constructed to survive those circumstances is revealing itself to be a costume, a role, a character you played so well you forgot it was a performance. This is what Jung called ego death, though that phrase makes it sound more dramatic than it is. It's not one big death. It's 1,000 small deaths. Every time you recognize a pattern and choose differently, every time you feel the pull of an old story and decline to believe it. Every time you catch yourself about to react from a place of protection, and instead respond from a place of presence, you're dying to who you had to be so you can become who you actually are. And your future self, the one you're becoming, needs you to do this. Not because the past was wrong or bad or needs to be erased, but because the interpretations you made in the past are taking up space that belongs to possibility. Think about it this way. Imagine you're holding a heavy stone. You've been carrying it for so long that your muscles have adapted to its weight. Your posture has changed. The way you walk, the way you move through the world, everything has been shaped by the fact that you're carrying this stone. Someone tells you you can put it down, and you think, I need to understand why I picked it up. I need to heal the moment I started carrying it. I need to make sense of the stone. But understanding the stone doesn't make it lighter. Making sense of why you picked it up doesn't change the fact that you're still holding it. Healing your past would be going back to the moment you picked up the stone and trying to change that moment. Freeing your future is putting the stone down now and learning to walk without it. This is the shift that changes everything. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what am I available for now that I'm no longer organized around this wound? You stop trying to resolve the past and start imagining a future that isn't determined by it. You stop seeking closure on old chapters and start writing new ones with different themes, different questions, different possibilities. Because here's what you need to hear. Your past is not your identity. It's your history. History informs, but it doesn't determine. The moment you stop confusing the two is the moment you become free. The future isn't something you arrive at. It's something you author. And you can't author a new future while you're still trying to edit old drafts. Jung said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you were shaped to be. Not who you had to become to survive. Who you are when all of that falls away. And that person, your authentic self, doesn't need your past to be healed. They need your past to be honored, acknowledged, integrated, and then released from its role as the author of your story. So what does this mean for you, right now, with all the pain you're still carrying? It means the work shifts. You stop excavating and start creating. You stop analyzing and start imagining. You stop going back and start moving forward. Not by running from the past, but by choosing not to let it colonize your future. You look at the patterns in your life, the ways you protect yourself, the strategies you use, and instead of judging them as problems to be fixed, you see them as information. They're telling you about the world you were navigating. They're showing you what you needed to do to make it through. And then you ask a different question. Is this who I still need to be, or is it time to become someone else? You start to notice the moments when the old story tries to write your present. The moment when someone's words trigger an ancient conclusion about your worthiness. The moment when an opportunity appears and that old voice says, not for you. People like you don't get things like that. And instead of going back to understand why that voice exists, you simply notice it, thank it for trying to protect you, and choose a different response. You act as if the old story isn't true, not because you're in denial, but because you're experimenting with a new hypothesis. What if I'm not defined by that? What if that conclusion was wrong? What if I'm free to choose differently? This is active imagination in practice. You're not changing your past. You're imagining a future that isn't bound by it. And slowly, choice by choice, moment by moment, that imagined future becomes your lived reality. You'll still feel the pull of old patterns. That's not failure. That's your psyche showing you where there's still work to be done. But the work isn't going back. It's staying present. It's choosing again. It's authoring forward. The past deserves to be honored. The pain you experienced was real. The younger versions of you who suffered and survived deserve compassion, understanding, acknowledgement. But they don't need you to stay stuck with them. They need you to take what you learned from those experiences and use it to create something they couldn't imagine. They need you to be free so that their suffering means something. You're not healing your past. You're freeing your future. You're becoming the person who can hold all of it, the pain and the wisdom, the wounds and the strength, without being defined by any of it. You're becoming whole, not by fixing what's broken, but by integrating what was always there, waiting to be recognized. And the moment you stop trying to heal backwards and start creating forward, you'll discover something remarkable. You were never as stuck as you thought. The door was always open. You were just facing the wrong direction. Turn around, your future is waiting, and it's not asking you to be healed. It's asking you to be free.